Yo, lately I've been making these videos where I talk about the most recent One Piece chapters. You know, just talking about different things I noticed or theories that I might have. And honestly, whatever random nonsense comes to my head. But no matter how deeply I dive into the chapters and how much I think I've turned every single corner, without fail, the comments always have something that I missed. Or just an interpretation that I didn't think of, whatever the case may be. I think from now on, whenever I do these little catch-up videos, there's gonna be another video that comes out later that's just gonna be me reading comments. Just looking at the things all you guys say, cause I'll be thinking I'm too deep in. Y'all be making me look chill and normal. You know, y'all always watching, judging my opinion. How about I judge y'all's for one? The first comment comes from CB Maddie, and he said, while I loved Wano and Egghead, they were pretty much the side characters in Luffy's show featuring the Straw Hat Pirates. Elbaf, however, has really put a focus back on the Straw Hat dynamic and great setup for future conflicts while keeping side characters mostly contained. The introduction of the Fear Fruit alone is amazing setup for Usopp growth, but if we can see more of the crew's deepest fears, that would be fantastic. I have two things to say about this comment. First, the part about how the Straw Hats have been getting ignored in recent arcs. I kind of agree with that, but I'm also kind of like, how much focus do the rest of the Straw Hats really need? Like, I love Frankie, but how much should I really expect from Frankie at the end of the day? It feels like a lot of the Straw Hats characters are already ready for the final saga or for the final war arc, and so they're just sitting around. But it has felt like now that we've gotten an Elbaf, we're sticking purely to Oda's original vision when he made One Piece, and therefore the Straw Hats are going to get a lot more attention because there's not these add-ons like Bonnie or the Scabbards. But the second part of this comment is something that I didn't even think of, and I'm so stupid for not thinking of it. It's so obvious. The fact that we have a fruit here that pulls out people's deepest fears, and we have Usopp, the man of a million fears. Out of all the fears Usopp has, which one would really be his biggest? And you're right, it would be great character growth for Usopp to see his deepest fear out of all the fears he has, to see his deepest one and be able to overcome that. Hey, that's fire. But the other character I really want to see interact with this fruit, and for the exact opposite reason, is Zoro. Like, what is Zoro actually afraid of? It feels like he's not really afraid of anything. Imagine Zoro's is just a giant Mihawk. That would be awful. Zoro would be out bad. But the only thing I could ever really think of Zoro really fearing is like the Straw Hats being wiped out. Maybe we see like a monster Kuma as a callback to Sabaody. That's really the only thing I could think of. Or maybe he sees the Grim Reaper. I already talked about my thoughts about Zoro and the Grim Reaper and what's going on with that. Maybe we get more insight to this here when they scan Zoro's deepest fears and the Grim Reaper pops out and people are like, why, Zoro? Since when have you been scared of death? And when death himself came and put that fear of God in him. Is that the Grim Reaper? Our next comment is from Slop Goblin. Okay. So many sick theories this arc, but the one I'm pulling for is that Usopp will be the one to reveal Loki's good side. His friend on the phone said that Loki hides his good heart under harsh words, and I think it would be fitting for Usopp to be the one that sees through his act while the rest of the Straw Hats are conflicted. Can't BS the god of BS in himself. I love this idea. Loki is a habitual liar. He can just talk laps around anybody, kind of like he almost did to us in this most recent chapter. For the king liar himself, Usopp, to be the one that sees through his lies. I wouldn't be surprised if Usopp kind of calls Loki out and Loki lashes out at him, even though as of right now where we are, I don't know how able Loki is to lash out at all. But this might be even more of a perfect opportunity for Usopp, because I've also seen the idea floating around that because Loki is so low health and he basically can't do anything, maybe he will try to lash out, but because he's so weak, Usopp's gonna one-tap him. I don't care how Mickey it is. If Usopp one-taps Loki, he's my GOAT forever. But honestly, with everything that's going on with Haruden and Loki right now currently, I don't know where Usopp's gonna fit into this dynamic. I think that makes it even more interesting to me though. But anyway you slice it, I don't think Loki and Usopp are gonna get along. One, because of the aforementioned lying stuff, but two, something tells me that Loki is not a big fan of cowards. Next we got PM Wingman. Somebody's mom, probably a nightmare version of Big Mom, considering her infamous history with Elbaf. I knew people were gonna say this. I do think that's what Oda is referencing in a meta sense, like he's saying that to us like a nudge to the viewer, but I'm pretty sure this is literally just a kid on Elbaf that's scared of his mom. But I do think this is on purpose, and we might have some of the giants or even some of the Straw Hats think this is Big Mom. I don't know what that's gonna do, what's gonna happen with that, but I mean, look at her. That's like a 97% match for Big Mom. Next comment comes from Roger Smith. I saw a theory by Fexer Fear that when Shanks returned to Marineford, he was tasked with stealing the Nika fruit, but double-crossed them to give the fruit to Ace. Then Luffy ate it, and because Shanks knows Zoans have a will of their own, he sacrificed his arm that has the tattoo needed to use the summoning circles and went all in on Luffy. I love this idea that the world government told Shanks to go get the fruit, because it makes Who's Who so much lamer, and it just makes his whole story so much funnier. The world government was planning on betraying you anyway. You were nothing, you were nobody. But I really like this theory because it gives a reason for why Shanks allowed that Sea King to eat his arm arm is something that you've heard One Piece fans complain about for decades. But if Shanks had that tattoo on his arm, when do people get gifted this mark? And so is it like a thing of only certain families can even get these abilities? Certain very trusted families? It wouldn't make sense. The Fagarlands are one of those families, and their relationship to Imu probably goes all the way back to the Void Century. Or the even more interesting idea that when Shanks returned to the Holy Land, he pretended like he was fucking with him just so in the end he could betray them and get the Nika fruit. I wouldn't be shocked if this was the case either. Shanks is very much a schemer, because Shanks had like a whole entire life between when Roger died to the current story. Wasn't Shanks like 14 when Roger died, and now he's like 40 years old? There's really no telling even how long Shanks was in Marijois. He could have lived in Marijois for a couple of years for all we know. It's insane that Shanks has been in the story for this long and there's still so much we don't know about him. I'm really interested to see what Shanks' relationship is like with the Celestial Dragon. But our next comment comes from name I'm not even going to try to pronounce out of respect for you. The biggest character this arc has been Road for me. Bro had negative 10,000 aura and slowly he worked his way up to NPC status. I feel like Road's entire shtick at the beginning of the arc will play into the Herald Loki conflict somehow. I've always thought Road and his little Legoland were going to be very important, if for nothing else, for introducing this conflict of the Sun God and what people think the Sun God is. And it's entirely possible that that was a conflict that Herald and Loki had with each other that eventually led to the outcome that we got to. But generally, I agree about Road. He's quickly grown to be one of my favorite characters on Elbaf. You know what? Forget Loki joining the Straw Hats. Road for Straw Hat. Now that's a real movement. Road for Straw Hat. Road leaves the new giant pirate and joins the Straw Hats because we definitely have a way better chance of uniting the giants than Hiruzen does. But next we have a comment from Duck33. Luffy does what he thinks is best. Kobe said the same things about Zoro in the literal exact same situation. Plus he literally chopped it up with Loki beforehand, so I trust Luffy's judgment on a person's character. Luffy's brothers were the son of Roger and Sabo, a noble. His dad's a revolutionary leader and his grandfather is a marine legend. So of course he's going to judge for himself. Generally, I would agree with that. But we have seen through Luffy's interactions with Buggy or even people like Foxy. Luffy is a really good judge of character, but he's not infallible. There are times where Luffy will think somebody's one way and it turns out they're way worse than he thought they were. And it's not necessarily that Luffy doesn't recognize this thing about them, but it's more so that unless you've done something to personally hinder Luffy or somebody that he cares about, he's gonna try to see the best in you and give you the benefit of the doubt, a lot like the Kobe and Zoro situation, which is why this is completely different to me from this Loki situation. Because Kobe was just talking about hearsay and rumors. The giants are telling Luffy, we saw Loki with our own 2 eyes burn down villages and laugh about it. It is Luffy at the end of the day. He's obviously gonna do what he wants to do, but this still feels just a tad bit out of character to me. Next comment comes from Chaos Koopas. Look at that scar over Scopper's eye. Looks like a flame, as in the man marked by flames. I think he's holding on to the final road poneglyph as the burn man, and what he wants to share with them is the final coordinates to locate Laugh-Tail. See, this is the kind of stuff I'm talking about. How is it even possible that I didn't think of this? I don't know, I feel like I kind of just pushed the whole man marked by flames thing out of my mind, but now that I think about it, Scopper is a really good choice, and I've heard a lot of people say that it's one of the Gods Knights. That could also really be the case because we just heard that all of the Gods Knights have a mark on them. But I also really like the idea that it's Scopper. Another thing that we just saw in the most recent chapter makes me think it might be Scopper as well, because we saw the fire ships in Elbaf. Those are all black, and that's all I'm gonna say about that. We got another comment from Sanji's Lighter. Yo, this profile picture is crazy. I have a theory that the Zoans that have the white smoke are people of the full moon's dreams, and the black smoke are people of the half moon dreams. I actually really like this idea, even though it would kind of shake up things that I've already assumed about the story. Ever since the mural, I've assumed that the people of the half moon are always the D-Clan, and the people of the full moon are probably the Celestial Dragons or Lunarians or whatever else the case might be. But the idea that Nika was a dream of the people of the full moon makes a lot of sense still when we take into account the things that we've heard about the first world. I've liked the idea recently that the white smoke is like a perfect Zoan awakening, and the black smoke are imperfect Zoan awakenings that have the chance to turn into failed Zoan awakenings like what we saw in Impel Down. But the full moon and half moon theory makes a lot of sense too, and it kind of leans into the idea that these black sashes are gonna be for darker people with darker abilities, and it will make sense if these fruits that gravitate towards these darker people came from a darker place to begin with. But as our final question from Matthew Torres, we have a question for me, and he asks, what do you think some of the matchups for the Straw Hats will be in this arc? Truth be told, as long as we've been on this island, I haven't thought about Straw Hat matchups at all, simply because up until recently, there weren't even enough villains for the Straw Hats to have matchups. And even now, there's still only like, what, 3? For right now, let's assume Loki's gonna get handled by Usopp somehow. I think Summers and Sanji is a pretty obvious matchup because Summers just started talking about love all the time. I feel like Scopper's gonna show up first, so maybe Summers will fight Scopper at first, but maybe Scopper gets distracted because of Colin or something, because we all know Colin's going there, and he's definitely not just gonna sit there and watch. He's gonna do something stupid. I don't know if we're gonna have proper one-on-one matchups. Like in Egghead, we had Luffy versus Kizaru, or like Zoro versus Lucci, but even then, those didn't really feel like full-on fights, more like little skirmishes. It feels like unless we're going up against another pirate crew, we won't get one by one each Straw Hat gets a matchup. But I do feel like we're gonna get an extended interaction between Killingham and Luffy because their fruits do seem like they kind of overlap with each other a little bit. Having a dream fruit is insane, considering that we've been told that all devil fruits come from dreams, especially the Nika fruit. And Killingham's design just reminds me a lot of Gear 5 Luffy in general. He has the bug eyes, the white sash and everything, and it would just be cool to see how Killingham interacts with him. It's entirely possible that Killingham might be the only devil fruit user that can use Luffy's imagination against him. I think the hardest character to find a matchup for is Gunko, because I don't know about y'all, but from what I've seen from Gunko, I don't really think she's that strong of a combatant. Like, her fruit is super versatile, but nothing about her screams warrior to me. Like, obviously she's not gonna be weak, but I couldn't see her fighting like a monster trio or Jinbei or anything. Maybe Gunko fights Robin, even though so far in this arc it doesn't seem like Robin has any intentions on fighting. It seems like she really just wants to chill with Saul the whole arc. Gunko could also end up fighting Nami. I've seen a lot of people say that they think Gunko and Nami might be related in some way. I'm really open to that idea. It's just right now I don't really know if I believe that Nami could fight Gunko. I feel like in a straight one-on-one, Gunko would beat the dog shit out of Nami, but honestly there's a lot of stuff that we need to unpack with Gunko, like how her favorite song is a song made by Brook about the Straw Hat. So you know what, maybe she fights Brook. I think there are a lot of characters that the Gods Knights are gonna have to interact with. I just don't know if they're gonna have real prolonged 1v1s with these characters, or if there's gonna be a lot of quick interactions and then the Gods Knights gotta get out of there, a lot like the Gorosei did. But yeah, man, that's all I got for y'all boys today. Let me know what you thought about this video in the comments below, and comment flames if you made it to the end. Just confuse everybody that didn't make it here. Like the video if you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and yeah, man, I'm gone. Damn.